All right, Jackson in studio. This is a treat. Thanks for being on Sports Extra.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
All right.
All right.
Will it be as exciting as this? James Harden, reportedly 4 years and $200 million. Are you good with that if that's ultimately what it takes to get James here?
Honestly, Jason, no. That is way too much money to commit to an aging James Harden who will be 34 years old at the start of next season. You want to commit over $200 million to 4 years of that. Even if he doesn't experience like a complete drop off a cliff in 2 years from now, that's still a lot of money to commit to an aging star when you could better use that money elsewhere to get some quality free agents.
Yeah, I am on board with that. I could argue this.
You're on board with that?
I'm on board. No, I'm on board with what Jackson.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Okay.
Because I'd rather give me Fred VanVleet. Let me just say this about James. It is his fault that he crapped on the organization and left town and all that. But it's not his fault that he becomes a free agent and he's the best free agent on the market, basically. So you can't blame him for wanting to take advantage of that situation. And he's got an owner here in Tillman Fertitta who likes him. He has a coach who's worked with him. I can't blame him from his point of view, but I think it's presumptuous of him to think that, oh, everybody's going to welcome me back to Houston with open arms.
I think this is really an interesting aspect to all of this. The Rockets obviously have the fourth pick in the draft after getting the fourth pick in the lottery. If Harden does come back, does that fundamentally change what the Rockets could or do or should do with that draft pick?
So it shouldn't, but it kind of feels like it will, because if you're considering committing that kind of money to James Harden, even if you were maybe to get him on more of a sweetheart deal, something in the range of 30, 35, 40 million a year instead of that full-blown 50 million a year max, even at that point, that's eating up a big chunk of the available cap space you have to sign some potential free agents this summer, so to plug those holes in your roster. And if you're looking at that fourth overall pick, then you've got to understand that whoever that player is gets brought into a system that you're then thinking, okay, well, if James has the ball in his hands, then are you able to commit to bringing in a rookie who needs the ball to get those reps, whether it's a primary playmaker like an Amon Thompson or a Scoot Henderson? It shouldn't impact who they get, but I feel like with the smoke being this prominent around a James Harden return, it might impact who they ultimately select with number 4.
Yeah, for sure, because it seems right now 90-10 that he's coming. It feels that way. Maybe it's not in reality. I don't think it is, but it feels that way. So should it affect that number 4 pick? I mean, it should not. I agree with Jackson again, but if I'm in the business of making a splash, and that's why they want James back, they want to get back into the playoffs, they want someone on their roster that fans recognize, not just locally, but nationally, I go for it. Package your picks. That's what I did with the Texans. Remember, I packaged my picks and I move up for Will Anderson. Package your picks and get Scoot. Bring in James Harden. Let's go for it right now. Let's see if they make it to the playoffs.
Yeah, but James Harden will want the ball in his hands.
I understand, but
doesn't that then stunt the development of Scoot, Jalen Green, Alpi, to a lesser degree KPJ, and whoever else is on the team?
That's why you've got Udoka.
Udoka's got to be the guy who's got to.
He's got to be the guy, right?
He's got to be the guy that orchestrates all this and finds a way to make it work if that's the direction they ultimately want to go. But the issue becomes, if you are the Rockets, what you don't want to do, you went through 3 years of pain with the rebuild. You went through 3 years of
severe pain.
Severe pain. There we go. Absolutely. Tillman Fertitta said it himself at the press conference. Like, it was very painful for all of us involved to go through this process. What you don't want to do is then try at the end of this process, just before you're going to enter phase 2 of the rebuild, to jumpstart things the wrong way, right? A Band-Aid fix, if you will, by going out there and getting an aging James Harden. It might look really tantalizing. He is easily the best free agent on the market this summer. That doesn't mean you have to go get him. You can make better long-term decisions than just jumping the gun with James Harden.
What's also interesting is, I think in a draft, there's usually 2 or 3 difference makers, and there may be 4 in this draft. Best player available seems to be a good theme, a good strategy when it comes to a draft like this. When you bring in James, and if he does sign for 4 years, does that again change your strategy when it comes to who you may select. Because if you pick a point guard, that's where James is now for the most part. It's what he was playing in Philadelphia. Do you not go with a guard then?
You know, it's especially because of the sequence of events here, right? You've got to go through the draft before you get to free agency. Now, we all know the tampering and everything takes place well before, we get to the July 1st actual free agency period.
Allegedly.
Alleged tampering. There we go. Good call. Good save. Thank you, Jason. But legitimately, it is a little tougher because if James is maybe playing both sides here, trying to see if he can get a better offer out of the 76ers, and using the Rockets as kind of his leverage play to get the Sixers to give him a better offer rather than them playing hardball, you can't factor in what that number 4 pick is going to do with James Harden. You've just got to take the best player available because ultimately you want as many bites of the apple as you can get to get a star caliber player out of the draft. So you can't look at the 4th overall pick and think, oh man, well, Cam Whitmore might fit better next to James Harden. You've got to take the best guy available, which at this point it looks like it's going to be one of Amen Thompson or Scoot Henderson at pick number 4.
If James does come here, does that mean that winning a championship isn't that important to him, or that ship has sailed? Because obviously, if he's looking to win a championship, going back to Philadelphia would probably be his best choice. The Rockets are not ready to win a championship. And he talked about winning championships. So where's his head at if he does come here?
That's the thing, and that's the big question in everyone's mind. I just want to say this. Thanks to James Harden, I met my wife.
Okay.
This is true because I had met this woman, and we were having a conversation. I said, we've got to go out and have a date. We have to have dinner, and we should do that at some point. It was 2017 during the Western Conference semifinals, and I said, man, this team is pretty good. I think they're going to make the Western Conference Finals. They might go to the NBA Finals. It's going to be a while before we can get together. Boom, James melts down. So thank you, James Harden. And I call this woman and, hey, I'm available unexpectedly. Let's go out Friday night. And one thing leads to another. She's now my wife. So thank you to James Harden for that. But it is a question that everyone wonders. Everyone wonders, can he come through and do what it takes to win a championship? And if you go by his past resume, the answer is no.
To me, a James Harden return would absolutely signal 2 things. One, he is moving on from the idea of pursuing a championship because there is not a better situation in the entire NBA for him right now other than signing on a vet minimum deal with the Bucks or another top contending team. Maybe he wants to go be the 6th man for the Denver Nuggets. Those aren't realistic outcomes, right? So with Joel Embiid, the reigning MVP, the supporting cast in Philadelphia that is tailor-made to benefit both him and Joel Embiid over there, right. Daryl Morey in tow, all of that. He is in the best possible situation right now to win a title in his career since the 2017-2018 Houston Rockets. If he comes back to Houston, it's no longer about winning titles. At this point, it would be his ride off into the sunset, if you will. And it's all about the expectations of what it would mean for James Harden returning to the Rockets. Rockets fans need to understand if James Harden comes back, it is not, he's going to lead you to the promised land. He's going to lead you to a championship. He is not the same James Harden that he used to be. He's older. He's still a good player. The expectations are about him setting the table and kind of ushering in this new era with the young guys. And you can look at how Tyrese Maxey has benefited from James Harden in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And you can envision the same benefits that he would have for guys like Jalen Green, like Jabari Smith Jr.
You would hope.
You would hope. There are a lot of benefits and a lot of positives to a potential James Harden return, especially in the immediate here and now. But what you don't want to do is hamper your long-term success by overextending yourself on a deal for him.
Now, we mentioned winning. A winning team in the NBA, Matt, you brought this up before the show. The most important characteristic, is it clutch play, coaching, camaraderie, or culture? And Matt, over there on the big board, tell us what you think is the most important characteristic since you came up with this.
Hey, playing just pickup ball at the Y, and I could no longer do that because of my knee. 2 months ago, my doctor said, stop. We can be buddies, and I don't want you on my team if you can't play.
Okay.
With camaraderie, so that definitely is out in my book. Well, let me find a pen over here. And so, let's see, Jason, what are our choices again? Clutch play, coaching, camaraderie, and culture. Boy, Eric Spoelstra is demonstrating again coaching does matter. Coaching does matter. If it didn't, Kelvin Sampson wouldn't be pursued by NBA teams. That's very important. Camaraderie, yes, it's important. Culture, everybody preaches culture. But I tell you what I'm looking for. If I'm looking for a pickup game of basketball or building an NBA squad, it's clutch play. I want someone I can count on. When the chips are down, they're going to pick it up, and we're going to go win that game. Whether it's to win a championship in the NBA or we're going to win King of the Hill down at the YMCA. I want someone clutch play. And when that happens, coaching looks better, camaraderie is better, and culture is better because we have clutch players on a team a la the Houston Astros and the Rockets championship teams in the past. What do you think, Jackson?
All right, guys. Well, because I was told I couldn't select multiple choices before we started.
You're the guest.
I'm gonna play by the rules here, guys. Look, for me, you can go through this whole list: clutch play, coaching, camaraderie, culture. Clutch play is important. You need talented players. You need guys who can accomplish things when they're on the basketball floor. Absolutely, talent wins out at the NBA level. Camaraderie, absolutely. You want guys that get along. You need guys who are on the same page, who all are working towards a common goal. That bleeds into culture a little bit as well. But who establishes all of this, right? It's got to be coaching for me. When I look at coaching and the Houston Rockets and what Ime Udoka is going to bring to the table for this team, it doesn't matter what else happens this offseason. That was the main acquisition this offseason that will elevate this Houston Rockets team to another level next year. Ime Udoka is easily a top 5 coach at the NBA level, and he's going to be the exact type of leader that this Rockets team desperately needs with a group of 19, 20, 21-year-olds, guys who are still trying to not only figure out who they are as NBA players, but also figure out who they are as human beings, as individuals. And Udoka has spoken relentlessly about his belief system, his philosophy, that everything is based on the relationships with these players and building those guys up to then maximize and realize their potential as basketball players. So for me, it's got to be coaching.
Wow, top 5, really?
Top 5.
Top 5. All right. I think basically I'm going the same direction as Jackson is, because without this, you don't have this, or this. And especially you talk about coaching. What do coaches, new ones, always talk about? Culture, culture, culture. So I'm going to say coaching as well. So guys, now that Ime Udoka's here, and if James does come back, how does this work? Is James and Ime, is that a good fit for the Rockets? Could it be a good fit?
Well, they have history together with the Brooklyn Nets, so it's not the first time that Ime Udoka has experienced James Harden. He's already bringing in an assistant coach, Royal Ivey, who was also on the coaching staff in Brooklyn with him, dealing with and coaching James Harden. I think the biggest issue is going to be Ime Udoka very much prides himself on being a no-nonsense, hard-nosed kind of guy, a very much a defense-first mentality. Does that really mesh with James Harden, especially at this stage in his career, right? He is who he is as an NBA player. He's not going to suddenly change in year 14 or whatever it is at age 34. He's not going to suddenly adapt who he is as a basketball player. So can they marry their two levels of basketball philosophy and make it ultimately work?
You know, if Udoka has a lot of confidence. So whoever comes before him, he's like, yeah, I can put it together. I can cobble this together. I'll have a team. Yes, he was with the Nets, but he was also with that 2017 Spurs team, my aforementioned 2017 Spurs team that affected my life, that he saw James melt down. So you got to think, if you're a head coach and these players come to you, yeah, okay, I can make this work. I think if anyone can, I don't think Stephen Silas would have been able to do that. Ime Udoka, yes. I think he can, but do you want to put your first-year head coach through this? There was chaos. There was so much chaos over the past few years for Coach Silas. I felt bad for him. I shouldn't feel bad for Coach because he made plenty of money, but I wouldn't throw that on my first-year head coach.
You got to think, too, that one of the reasons that Udoka likely thought the Rockets' job was at least a little bit attractive is, you come from a situation with very big-time expectations, winning a championship in Boston. This Rockets team is kind of a redemption story a little bit, right? They've been at the bottom of the scrap heap for multiple years. Ime Udoka has his own redemption story that he's trying to achieve and prove that he is, who he is as an NBA head coach. This situation, there's a very low set of expectations. The bar is kind of low, and that's had to have been one of the attractive reasons, not only the bright future, but just right out of the gate, you don't have all that mounting pressure of, hey, it's championship or bust.
That's the final word right there. He is Jackson Gatlin from the Locked On Rockets podcast. Jackson, thanks for coming in and being on Sports Extra.
Always a pleasure to talk sports with you guys.